Welcome to On Web Marketing, your key to the world of digital marketing techniques, web online strategy, search engine marketing, search engine optimization, and social media, with conversations and tips from the world's leading practitioners. You can access related resources, recommended reading, special offers, and more when you visit the On Web Marketing Resource Center at informit.com/webmarketingcenter.
So the first important thing about marketing is that we can't run campaigns in isolation anymore, because a lot of these conversations about our brands and products are happening out there on social networking sites. So just a show of hands, how many of you have used search.twitter.com before? Okay, so just some of you. So for those of you who haven't, I'll show you on the browser. I did a search before I lost my internet connection of what it is. And I just did a search on the Facebook era. My book launches today, so I'm curious to see what people are saying about it. And instantly you can see across all of the Twitter status messages or tweets what is being said about a particular brand or product, or if you're following a trend, maybe you sell golf clubs, you can see what the frequency and incidence of golf mentions are and what regions and kinds of people are making those statements, so that you can better tailor your campaigns. So before, marketers had to use a lot of guesswork to try to understand what people wanted and what kind of campaigns would work. And now, a lot of that guesswork is taken out, because you have the ability to search and to listen in on these conversations. So Facebook has a tool that's similar along the same lines, where it's called Facebook Lexicon, where for certain keywords they've been able to crawl across all of the Facebook users and all of their wall posts to see the incidence and sentiment around your particular keyword or brand. So in this case, it is Clinton, Obama, and McCain. And so you can imagine, after a big political campaign or after a big marketing campaign, you might want to see some results. You might want to see a spike in the number of times that your candidate or your product is then mentioned on Facebook. And so it's interesting to see also across time, the big spike is for Super Tuesday, and obviously Obama had the disproportionate amount of mentions, and then that was indicative later of the voting and how that worked out. The other important concept is that of loyalty magnification. So before, when I thought about Helen as a customer, I thought about her in isolation. But because of Facebook, because of the news feed, I can't view Helen in isolation anymore, because there's Helen and the value of Helen's loyalty, but there's also spillover effects. When Helen is loyal to my brand, her entire network is notified of that. And what Facebook has done is, by having the news feed and by broadcasting out Helen's preferences, Helen's activities, which pages Helen fans, and which ads she might be clicking on, it's changing the notion of word-of-mouth marketing. Because before, when you wanted to tap into word-of-mouth marketing, it was an active process. So if I got Glenn to become a fan of my book, I'd have to rely on Glenn to actively email to his friends, or to actively call people up and say, hey, I just read The Facebook Era, and it's a great book. So that required a lot of thought on Glenn's part. First of all, to initiate that communication, and second of all, to decide who he was going to tell. But with Facebook, because of news feeds, it becomes automatic. For Glenn, he can be passive. He can just decide to fan my page or mention my book in his status message, and Facebook, on his behalf, will broadcast that information out to his network. And so when I think about Glenn, it isn't just whether he's going to buy my book, but whether he's going to buy my book, plus how much influence he has on his entire network to buy my book. And it really just changes how you view individuals, and especially influencers, among your customer base when you're a marketer. And so if any of you decide to fan my book by texting Facebook, again, there's a multiplication effect that happens. And I'm tapping into the transitive trust that exists between you and your friends. So hopefully a lot of you have influence and you're joining my fan page. But it's not just the news feed, it's also the ads. Facebook has tried to use people's friends to help market to them. And this is controversial, but it's an interesting concept that if David Abramson, who is my friend, becomes a fan of Bonobos Pants Company. By the way, Bonobos, for those of you who don't know, is a pants company started by two 07 GSBers who were sick of working in finance and really wanted to pursue their passion for fashion. And the only advertising they've done over the last year has been on Facebook, and now, less than a year after starting, they're on a $2 million run rate. It's pretty incredible to think about. And a lot of it has been that they've been able to tap into the passive word of mouth and the social aspect of fashion that takes place. And so what happens is they have decided to show me this ad based on a number of different criteria, which we'll talk about in a couple slides. And they also see that among my network, among my friends, that actually David is already a fan. And so they're using David to help spread the word and to help endorse these jeans. And they're using transitive trust, because I trust David and David trusts Bonobos. I'm more willing to click on that ad. Because it's not just about Bonobos anymore. It's about my relationship with David. And maybe I think David has really good style. And so he's someone that I want to emulate. And so the interesting thing about hyper-targeting, sorry about that. It'll be on my next slide. So this is my new slide that I just included in, and it really goes back to when I'm assessing the value of Helen as my loyal customer, I have to rethink customer life cycle value, because I can't just view her in isolation anymore. There are a couple of different factors that I have to account for, which I didn't have to before. And the first one, which I covered, was Helen's level of influence multiplied by the size of her network. The second one is if I have a community site like Dell IdeaStorm. Dell IdeaStorm is a community website that runs on the Salesforce Ideas product. And what it does is that it invites Dell customers to log in to this forum where Dell product managers have actually posted all of their features and product ideas and possible directions they may pursue. And customers can vote on these ideas, up and down. And customers can also suggest new ideas that aren't already on the site. And what happens for Dell is that instead of having to guess what products will make it, or hiring some fancy consulting firm to predict what products will sell, they're basically just asking customers what they're willing to pay for and where there is demand. It's a very direct way to crowdsource innovation and product development. And so what's happened is that Dell has gone in unexpected directions. They never thought that people would buy a Linux operating system that shipped with their hardware. They talked about it, but it was dismissed at all levels of the company. And it turned out to be the most popular idea after Dell IdeaStorm launched. And what happened was that they created a new product. They started shipping hardware with Linux installed on it, and it sold through the roof. It sold through the roof. And so what we're seeing too is not only does Helen say she suggested the idea for Linux on the hardware, not only is it her level of influence multiplied by the size of the network, it's her level of influence multiplied by the size of the community based on how good the idea was. So she suggested the idea, but the hundreds of thousands of other people on the Dell IdeaStorm community had to vote up her idea in order for it to get to the top the way that it did. And not only that, there's a very direct ROI and a very direct value of the sales that result from this new product that Helen suggested that wouldn't have existed without this social forum.
Thanks for podcasting with us. Remember to visit the OnWeb Marketing Resource Center, where you can access recommended reading, special offers, and more at informit.com/webmarketingcenter. Be sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single episode. Brought to you by Inform IT, the trusted technology learning source.